Hey everyone, welcome to Love Your Body Podcast. I am on today with a dear friend of mine, and I'm so happy to have you, Claire. Claire, tell everybody who you are and how we know each other.
Oh my. Well,
Yes.
I am. Wait a minute. Stop.
Like my second
Wait,
mom.
Start this. Yeah, really.
No, go ahead.
I'm like,
You're in it.
that was a question I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, you can talk however you want. You're good.
Who am I?
Yeah, exactly. Like you're
Okay.
fairly newly single.
I am. I'm a widow. I have 3 grown children that are amazing, and one adopted in who's sitting across from me.
Yeah.
And
Who you told everybody at the bars last night that I was your daughter.
I just have to say, I make a great wing woman.
I'm just like 6 inches taller than you, so it's just like, I mean, it makes sense, right?
You know, somebody has got to get out there for you, girl, and I am
Wow.
all about it.
Can we say that again? Can we wind that back? What'd you say, Claire?
Somebody needs to get yourself out there, and you need to find you a good man. So I just thought I'd kind of do the process to start. The problem is we did it in downtown Nashville, and there's nothing but bachelorettes and bachelor parties down there.
Right.
So that's not your vibe. That's not what you need.
It's not my vibe. It is not. And
We don't need a one and done.
Right.
We've been there, girl.
Oh my gosh. So tell them, because okay, you're from originally Louisiana.
I am. I'm an LSU girl,
Okay.
and graduated college. Met
Yeah.
my husband. Had started my career. I was in advertising, and got recruited out to California. Met my husband, and then we ended up moving to the Northeast,
Yeah. What part of California did y'all meet in?
LA.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
down- yeah.
So, okay, so with your agency, because we have never really talked about that, I want to know a little bit. Like, what was that
So
like?
I came out of college. I was actually thinking about going to get my master's. So I was going to go to seminary and get a seminary degree. But things happened, and I ended up not. And so I had taken all of my, I spent the first 2 years in engineering and the next 2 years all business courses. Graduated with a liberal arts degree, general studies degree, and probably had 9 hours of liberal arts. It was the craziest thing ever. But I just wanted to graduate because I was going to go on and get my master's. So anyway, all of that changed, and I walked into an ad agency to basically answer the phones. Didn't know anything about. I mean, I'd taken a couple of marketing classes, but not really. Wasn't really my thing. This is in Louisiana.
But in Louisiana, but like the 90s or 80s?
80s, late 80s.
Okay.
And you just dated me,
I'm just painting the picture for everybody, okay? I'm just like...
Yeah, late 80s. And I ended up walking into a place that had just picked up the McDonald's business. And so it was a local advertising agency, and their client was McDonald's, and it was a local group of owners. And so they offered me the job every day for a week, and I said, absolutely not. McDonald's? No, thank you. And went to my first meeting and went, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. Like, I could really do this. This is great.
Yeah.
And so ended up going from Louisiana to Dallas, to Houston, to the Carolinas, and then got recruited out to California and handled one of the biggest markets, which was the LA market, and loved it.
Yeah.
So it was great fun.
When you were in those different places, like a year at a time, a few months, it was kind of like a lot, like...
Oh, yeah, a couple years. So the Louisiana, Dallas, Houston was all basically with the same group.
Okay.
Just changed agencies, and the client
Yeah.
loved me, and so
Yeah,
I
you just
kind of
kept going
went.
with- okay.
Yeah.
So was that challenging to like date and things like that, or did you?
Well, somehow I didn't have a problem dating or getting engaged.
I know that's right.
I just couldn't pull the trigger. So
We just knew that wasn't right.
yeah, really. But I mean, I think it's very much. I mean, back then, I was an anomaly because I was so much older and had my own career, and didn't center my life on getting married and having babies.
Sound familiar to anybody listening?
Really?
Is this like a
But this day and age,
Yeah.
I mean, I have 2 25-year-old daughters.
Yeah.
And both of them have nice boyfriends, love them to death.
Right.
But they're not in any hurry to get married.
Right.
And so much of this generation isn't,
Right.
which is great because you don't have near the stigmatism that we had back then.
So you were the outlier.
Oh,
for sure.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you went to LA, like what was your, I guess, title? Was it like?
I was account supervisor, vice president, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of those.
Boss babe.
At
Yeah.
one point or another. So
Okay. So before we get into how you met Eve, because I want to know, that whole story. Real quick, let's tell everybody how we know each other. Okay.
So my husband had at that point been diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And as what happens often when you find yourself in crisis mode, you relax and kind of everything that you do for you stops.
Yeah.
And I had really compensated my grief with eating. And I had, gained a fair amount of weight and had stopped exercising. And so I had found a place that I lovingly referred to as the Fat Farm. And
That I refer to as an all women's healthy living resort in Vermont.
correct.
So we have a little. So people, listeners, I mention it all the time.
That's
so.
it. And went, and you had just graduated from college.
Yep,
And I loved you because you were so vibrant and so alive. And you looked at me and looked past the weight and realized that even at my heaviest weight, I was still walking every day. I was very active.
Yes.
I just was not one of these little skinny, tiny things,
Right.
and never have been, honestly. But it was great because you did not put a barrier on what you thought I could do or couldn't do.
Yes.
You ran a class, and everyone could step up and do what they could do.
Yeah.
And I loved it because I could do it all.
Yeah.
And so it was great. You and I bonded very quickly, and of course, I was very much inspired, and so I would just do more and more. And anyway, and you connected, and we began talking about your dreams and what you wanted to do. And of course, I have my darling husband was a physicist and absolutely brilliant, and a senior executive at PepsiCo. So he's very business oriented. And so he and I sat down with you and kind of talked about plans and how to get you started in your own business and what kinds of goals you should have and things that you should do. And so you just kind of got adopted in. We helped you start your books, and
it was literally it was such a beautiful moment because it's like, I mean, I fondly remember us like going on those walks every morning, like pretty much every morning. You know, that 2-mile walk, down to the stop sign, and we would just talk about life talk about dreams and talk about all that. And you were just so accepting and so of me as well, because again, I'm coming in as a fitness intern, right?
And you had that twang, girl, and I was from the Northeast.
Yes, and
I was like, this country doesn't come up here.
Right.
What the heck?
And a lot of those people were from different, different states, all these places. And so it really was kind of like, they kind of picked at me a little bit about it. So I kind of reframed and kind of, try to be like, okay, more professional or whatever. But it would just come out when we would talk.
Well, yeah.
It was like, that's
but
just
I
me.
could understand that.
Exactly.
Because I also was from the South.
Yep.
But there is somewhat of a perception that if you have a twang, you're dumb.
Yeah, and I'm young, and I'm blonde, and just the intern, whatever.
Okay, so one of us is dumb. But just kidding. But yeah, it was really neat.
Yeah,
but it was good. It was that was such a great time period, and in many ways, it was almost the way. The process that you raise children is you spend the most time you possibly can with your children 0 to 5. And then once they start going to school, you start giving away more and more responsibility because that's our job, is to raise them to fly.
Right.
And it's almost like we got to do that with you in an expedited way.
Right, yes.
Because we kind of took you in, we, immersed you in this world that you had dreams of but had no idea how to execute.
Right.
And then within a period of 2 years, 2.5 years, you were doing it all yourself. We had rolled completely out. And it was just a beautiful thing to watch. Yeah. So it was neat.
Oh, that was so special. Because like I said, I try to tell it from, my point of view and things like that. And I've mentioned you as second mom, but mentor and things like that.
Right.
So, my clients a mentor, they're thinking very suit, suit business and just very strict and who you take these orders from type of thing. It's that's not what this was. This is such a beautiful relationship and something that, for life. And so I loved, being up there. And when I went from Vermont, so you guys basically, I didn't have a job lined up. I was I don't know what I'm going to do. I had all these dreams and things, but I'm at this point, I'm I'll stay up in New Jersey. I'll stay wherever, wherever I need to go to do fitness because I loved it that much. And I remember coming to you guys' house in Connecticut, and And,
We made some connections for you in Jersey.
yes, yep. You got me an interview with this man in New Jersey, this club, this North Atlantic club or whatever it's called. I mean, it made lifetimes here look like a joke. Like, I'm talking like 4 tennis courts. Like it was, I walked in like, I'm overwhelmed. Like there's like I don't even know. So I go in there and he was so sweet. He was like, I was like, I'll take the job here. You know, I'm like very eager. He's like, well, okay, like Claire highly recommended you. Like, let's kind of figure this out. Gave me some really sound advice about finding a niche and everything like that. And he said, I have a friend who owns a club in Franklin. Is that near you? And I'm like, that's 30 minutes from my parents' house. Okay, we can make this work, right? Yeah. And but I really did love the New England area. But yeah, and then basically like you guys, I remember you made some trail mix for me, and we like, you know, so I'd have some snacky snacks on the road, and like he took me to get my car detailed before I went over there, you know, so like laid it out for me, so I felt successful and strong. Went into that interview, crushed it. But honestly, well, let's be real though, nobody's gonna like say no to Claire. So like Claire was like, you're gonna talk to her.
Well,
and, like,
people forget too what mentorship is really about. And it's about authenticity.
Yes.
It's about realizing that, you know, sometimes God puts different people in your lives at different seasons.
Yeah.
So that they've been there. You know, both Eric and I knew what it was like to have nothing but a dream.
Yeah.
And it was because of other people investing in us that we wanted to pass it on. And I think sometimes people just think, oh, you know, well, you got a break because you got an introduction.
No.
Look, let me be real with you. One of the great things about being successful in life is you meet other successful people.
Yeah.
And yes, we can make introductions, but then it's up to you.
Right.
Because I can get you in the front door.
Yeah.
But if you can't make eye contact, if you can't hold a communications and communicate what you want to do in a way that comes across as compelling, they're successful for a reason.
Right.
They're not in the business of taking in charity cases.
Right.
They're in the business of taking in people who have drive and ambition and a dream and saying, baby, I was there. I get it. Let me show you. Yes. Let me help you do a few things that can steer you along the way.
Right.
That's what life's about.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the first times, really, I had a couple other people, women that were strong and just like independent that helped me along the way, like my first job at UT, and then going to the resort and I my other mentor in California, Susie, like she kind of took me under her wing in that aspect of like classes and training and that element. And then Lynn Ann, you know, and everything. So it was just like
we all loved Lynn Ann.
Right. I know. And it was just like, but it was so cool because in that season, that short period of time, I met so many strong, you know, women, and then I came from not really, you know, besides my mom and stuff, but like I didn't have like a lot of women around that were doing anything like that, like in Murfreesboro, like in the borough, you know, so that I could even like lean on to ask questions about it, especially in the fitness sense because of my body size and a female as a trainer, you know, and so it just didn't really, it was like finally being heard for the first time. Yeah. And that was cool. Like it was like, I could have said, I don't even know what I could have said. And they put them like, all right, we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like it didn't seem like anything was too dramatic or too whatever or too crazy. And that was really cool. And so I loved that. And so whenever I had left Connecticut and everything like that, so then I think it was when I got back home, maybe like it was a year and a half later, I started my business. Yep. So I guess did I interview at the club? I interviewed at the New
interviewed
Jersey.
And got the job.
Oh yeah. I walked in and like, so, but what happened was though, that's the story that I tell, that they looked at me and they were kind of like, yeah, like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, I thought I had like a job. Like I thought, you know, I came from the CO and they're like, oh yeah, like personal training's gonna be really hard for you here. The group fitness was like, we don't have any classes available for you here. And so I always remembered in UT, in the business fraternity, to ask a question before you leave. So I said, oh, okay. So they just weren't going to offer me anything. So I said, okay, can I have a look around the club? It's really beautiful. Could you just show me? So I do that. By the time I do a lap, the general manager comes back and goes, you know what? Actually, we have a membership position available. Would you want it? And so this would be the only female membership with these guys, right? And I was like, sure. Like, yeah, of course. I would love that. So what I would have done now, I would have called Jeff back up and been like, hey, man, like the CEO, I'm like, hey, they said I don't have a job. What's going on? But I was so still like, you know, like I'm on this high. I want to share with the world everything I just learned at Vermont and everything, whatever. And then to be like, oh, I'm back in Tennessee. Like, let me sit down. Things are still different here. Okay. So then I realized there's that need. So then I was like, okay, you know what? I'll do my deal. So I took the opportunity, like a membership for 6 months, and I met everyone in that club, the thousands of people, all of them, talked to them, got to know them. That's how I met Cortland, and all these people, and told them my story. And then when they needed a sub, because moms were teaching group fitness classes, so they know they need a sub, I would sub in. I would change out of my suit, go back there, teach a class, do the thing. And then people fell in love with the classes. They started asking for me, making $22, after taxes, on those classes. And I just kept on going. And then finally I did a fitness event, and I raised money for Augie's Quest for ALS. And that was my moment where I was like, okay, Claire, like, I'm going to not start my business, but like at that club, I'm going to start doing personal training. I don't care what happens. This is my give back. Like, thank you for giving me the job, but now I got to stop playing it safe. I'm going to do personal trainer. I had one male client, one older man, for 3 months. Everyone laughed at me every day. The other trainer's like, oh, how's your client? You know what I mean? It was very maybe you should go back to membership, whatever. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm going to pursue this and whatever. And thankfully I could stay with my mom and dad. Right. So I felt safe there. But anyway, as soon as that happened, I started teaching more classes, started doing water aerobics, started working. I was folding towels in the back to make extra money, did every possible thing I could. And people saw me, and then they started wanting to train with me.
I think that's such an important lesson, because I remember you and I talking about this process, and you were so disappointed that you struggled. And you and I chatted about, look, we can make lemonade out of lemons. You have an opportunity. Girl, I know who you are.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
Right.
So you get out there and you do everything you possibly can. And it's such a different perspective. Again, I kind of keep going back to the generation of today and how so many just want to take the easiest road.
Right.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll take that. But yet I want to take the easiest road, but I want to be paid 6 figures for it.
Right.
People forget the people that are making astounding amounts of money, for the most part, not every time, sometimes you get gifted it, okay.
Yeah.
But for the most part, are people who started out making nothing.
Right.
And started folding towels, doing this, doing that, going back and living with mom, as embarrassing as it is, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But guess what? I'm going to work my tail off, and I'm going to take every single opportunity. If I'm folding towels and I meet somebody folding towels that needs some training, guess what? I heard of an opening over here. Oh, I'm here.
Right.
Put yourself out there, because especially when you're young, you have no other obligations.
Right.
That's the time to invest in your life. And with every situation, even when it's not perfect, you learn more about who you are and what you want.
Yes, exactly.
So it's always something that you can take from it.
Oh, 100%. And I learned how not to do things at that gym. And I learned the good things. I learned to structure it. It was so, it really was turning the negative into a positive is how I looked at it. And what was great is what you just said is a lot like my dad, like what he says to me, and he's always kind of said that, you ain't got no kids. What responsibilities you got? You know what I mean? This is before, bought the house and all that. But he always leveled it with me to be like, there's no need. Why are we stressed? And so that's where it was when you would always kind of remind me that and kind of put me back when I would get kind of nervous or maybe worried or be like, man, it's just because like I said, people don't realize 3 months doesn't sound like a long time. But when you're sitting there and you're already the outlier. You're already the whatever, and it's just man, I believe in this so much. You have to wait and work hard.
And you live on Instagram and Facebook where everybody puts on their best self and this perfect life. And look at the great job I have. And look at all the money I'm making. And look at all my brands. I'm telling you, that nonsense has been the absolute worst.
Yeah.
Because it's so unrealistic.
I know. And it's messing with a lot of people.
Yeah, and nobody posts the reality of, okay, I'm out here schlepping it.
Yeah.
But guess what?
Right.
I'm making it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've always loved about your story.
Thank you.
You have always put out there, I love this. I loved your mission from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think it was so unique and so different, and still is. It's one of the things that I think is so compelling because women are all different sizes.
Yeah.
We're all made different.
And we all are beautiful in our own way.
Girl.
You know what I mean?
Girl, Psalm 139, I knew you. I formed you in the womb before you were ever made. And I know the number of hairs on your head and all of those things that you just look at and you think, girl, I know you think you need this and you need that, but you were beautifully made exactly the way you are.
Yes.
Every knit and tibble and whatever, it's all
makes
good.
you. Yeah.
It does make you you.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's a beautiful thing. If we all, good Lord, can you imagine if we were all like me? We'd kill each other.
We got to have a variety.
We do.
We got to have.
We do. Even the most beautiful bouquets of flowers are all different flowers. They're not all one same.
Wow, that's so special. That was so pretty. I love that. I love that.
I've done my job. I'm out.
No, we still got some more time. We still got time. No, because I do want to talk about because again, with your journey, especially with grief, right? So like when you first got the diagnosis that Eric was sick, because like let's think about this. You guys met in California, okay? Like it seems like top of your career, like crushing it. You're just like this boss babe out there. Late 80s, you said, or early
90s.
Okay, 90s at this point. Okay, and then he's at Pepsi, like
No, interestingly enough, at that point he was at Northrop Grumman.
Okay,
and he had worked 10 years. So it was kind of a crazy situation, but basically the school he was poor and grew up poor, single mom, home, and the guidance office just kind of dismissed him, and he took his ACT test, which SAT on the West Coast. Well, he got perfect in math, and guidance all of a sudden went, holy crap. Like, we've not put this child in any AP courses, and he was brilliant. And so they ended up giving him an internship at Northrop Grumman. He worked during his senior year and just post his senior year, and they offered him a full-time position. So he worked full-time and then went to school part-time.
Okay.
Paid his way the whole way, ended up going to community college the first 3 years to get all of his prereqs, and then went to UCLA, graduated magna cum laude. He was amazing. And then I met him his first semester of his master's. Okay. And so, but yes, we were both, in this unique place and both really wanted to have, find somebody that have a relationship with. Yeah. And it was very fast. We were older too. So, he was about almost 5 years younger than me. I robbed the cradle.
I love it. I love it.
But he, it was just really.
Yes,
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's bad. I think they call it a cougar these days.
It's a cougar, yeah.
Oh, dear
Wait,
Jesus.
so how old were you?
So when I met him, I was 30 and he was 25.
Okay.
So, and 25, 26. I was 30, 31, I think, when we got married.
And he wasn't like intimidated or he was.
No, okay. I got to be honest. Like, I would have never dated him in high school or college.
Okay.
He was way too geeky. Way too nerdy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, way too. Unfortunately, I went for every good-looking piece of crap you could, find. And he was nothing like any guy I'd ever dated. Yeah. And I loved it. And he was smart, wicked smart, and had an amazing sense of humor. Yeah. And very witty. Yeah. And just called me on our nonsense. Yeah. And I actually met him at Oktoberfest, which is a beer fest down in Torrance, California. And I was there with a young girl that worked for me, and I was actually there planning on meeting another guy. I was supposed to that I had met a couple of weeks before, and so I show up, and he wasn't there, and I was not in a very good mood. Oh yeah. And so, but she thought Eric's best friend was really cute. Okay. And so I walked over, and I'm like,
of course you did.
The blonde thinks you're cute. Come on, I'll introduce you.
Oh my gosh.
So, David, Nancy, David. And then I turned around and sat down. The two of them were ready to kill me. It's like, deer in the headlights looking at each other. Right. And when I sat down, Eric came around the corner and sat beside me. I'm like, what do you want?
Yeah, like, who are you?
Oh, friendly. Yeah. I'm like, I can be. What's your point? Mm-hmm. I was just not in a good place at that point. But then had to go to the bathroom, and this amazing man walks me to the bathroom. And when I came out, he was still there. And I thought, wait a minute. I need to slow my roll. I've got a gentleman here, and I missed it. Oh, my God. And that was it. Within, I think, about 3 months, we were engaged, dated another whole year, and then got married. And we got married in March of 95 and had David in August of 96. Okay. And then the twins in July of 98.
Wow.
So it was pretty fast, but he was absolutely the love of my life. And he, I think it's amazing, when you're looking for someone to consider pulling the trigger with.
Yeah.
It's not about, wow, are they great, or, I could live with them. It's, can you live without them? And when you find someone that makes you better, and that you make them better, that's when you know you have a right one, and you have the one that you're willing to sit down and invest in. And it doesn't mean that you have a marriage that is, without issues or difficulties. We're all human beings. We all have moments, and but you can talk it through and have conversations that involve, okay, what about this situation caused me to trigger you that way?
Yes.
So, because there's something other than just what I did.
Right.
Like, there's something deeper here.
Yeah.
So what's going on, and what did I do that brought that out in you, so that I can try not to do that again?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I love you and I care about you.
Right.
And that did not bring out a pretty side in you. And when you're not pretty, girl, I'm going to be not pretty back.
Exactly.
And so it's just, you're so blessed, and very happily married for years. And then Eric got diagnosed when my babies were in 9th and 10th grade. And, it's crazy because you are living the dream.
Yeah.
And then you wake up one day and it changes instantly. And all of a sudden, every dream that you had about retiring and traveling together and spending time together, and it's gone.
Well, everything you had been working for too,
Correct.
right? Like,
correct. And it's in some. I tell you, in hindsight's always 50-50, but I look back and think he was so wise.
Yeah.
Because I'm the girl cup half full.
Yes.
He was always the cup half empty. And so he always planned for the worst.
Yes.
And because of it, when we found ourselves in this situation, we at least didn't have the financial implication on top of everything else.
Right.
Because he'd made the decision to have disability insurance maxed out and all of these other things so that we could be okay. But those are critical years. That was right before. At that point, we had already saved for all of our children to go to college. Thank God.
Right.
But it changes everything, and you go through this process of why me,
Right.
and why him, and or probably the more authentic way of saying that is, really, this couldn't happen to my asshole dad.
Right.
It happens to my good husband.
Yeah.
But then you realize that, all of us go through something in life.
Right.
None of us get to go through life scot-free.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do with it?
Right.
Are you going to let it destroy you? Or are you going to walk through it and realize that there's going to be people along the way that are going to help you, and you're going to be able to help somebody else?
Yeah.
And when you have adult children, you got to be able to help them deal with it too.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for subscribing to the Love Your Body podcast, following along, leaving a 5-star review. It means the world. As you can see, we have people of all different bodies, sizes, ages, walks of life that get to share their incredible stories. And so if you're somebody that wants to come on at any point, please reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram or reach out via email, Dani@DaniDFitness.com. And then also, you guys, if you are looking to sponsor, please, reach out as well. And we have lots of awesome things coming up, from, events coming out. I'm super pumped for more like online programming. I'm looking for always to help in the community. So if you have a connection, please reach out. And also, if you haven't yet subscribed to Dani D After Dark for all the exclusive LYB episodes that you can't hear here, but you can hear on there. Also with discounts, and for My Fight Energy, discounts for apparel, all the fun things that we have in that special community where we can just open and talk freely. Please feel free to subscribe to that. When you told me that, your husband E, who I'd never met, had ALS, I was just like, okay, first off, let me look this up. Like, let me figure out what this is. And literally my first impression was like, this is for me, because I love to move, right? This is my absolute worst nightmare. Not that any disease has
girl.
a one over the other or anything
No.
like that, but truly was just like, oh my gosh. So could you tell everyone kind of like what
it's brutal. It's so the interesting thing about it, probably 6 months before he was diagnosed, we were all sitting around the dinner table one night.
Yeah.
And the question came up. If you have two choices. Either you can't move anything in your body, but your mind works, or you're able to physically move and take care of everything, but your mind is impacted.
Right.
Which would you choose? And it was an interesting conversation around the dinner table. And Eric said unequivocally, oh, I want to keep my mind. Of course he did. He was a physicist. He was brilliant.
Brilliant. Yes.
So you fast forward that.
Yeah.
So what ALS is, and trust me, I didn't know what it was either. None of us did. It was, very shocking. About 10% of cases are genetic, but 90% are random.
Okay.
And so what happens, the easiest way to explain this is that when you move a muscle, a neuron flies from your brain down a slippy slide, gets all the way down to this finger, and it says move. And so the neuron activates the muscle, and the muscle moves. In ALS, the slippy slide, it's called glutamate, overproduces. They don't know what triggers, but something activates that where there's an overproduction. Okay. They think it's somehow, like most cancers, autoimmune related, something in the environment or stress that activates it. And so what happens is as it overproduces, then that neuron that leaves your brain to try and get your finger to move, all of a sudden it can't get there. And so it starts misfiring. Okay. And so if you look at someone with ALS, they'll have these little tiny muscle twitches. Okay. And that's the neurons trying to get to the muscle. So what ultimately happens is that either it will onset in the feet or the hands, or what's called bulbar in the throat. But you lose your ability to move any muscle that you can control. So it doesn't affect your heart because your heart beats without you. Right. In a man, it doesn't affect that because, trust me, it works on its own. Okay. However, it affects hands, your feet, your legs, your core. Yeah. So what becomes a real issue? Your ability to swallow. You have no idea how many muscles it takes to swallow or articulate words. And in the real situation is you lose your core. So your body begins to compensate. When your hands don't work, you compensate with your wrists, then it's arms, then shoulders. But eventually your core is impacted and your central muscles. And so if somebody just barely nudged him, he would fall. And he couldn't catch himself because he had no muscles. Okay. So, those were the big risks that way. But I think for, it's brutal, brutal to watch because you basically watch the person that you love die in front of you and their muscles atrophy and they become skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. And I think it's even more devastating for a man. Yeah. Of course, my perspective, I don't know the flip side. Right. But watching this man who opened every door for me, who carried every suitcase, and all of a sudden, I have to open the doors. Right. I have to help him get out. Yeah. When we take trips, I have to carry all the suitcases. Right. And the look in his face, that was just the worst. Right. Because he's a man. Right. Wants to take care of his woman.
Well, I remember when I came to dinner when I sat with you guys, and I think you had made steak or something like that. And I remember just being like, oh my gosh, it's so great. And we're sitting at the table. I mean, like, E came and like picked up my plate for me and like took my plate.
Yes.
So just for context, when did you meet him?
So I met him, it would have been 2016, right before 2016.
No, it was 2016 because I came up when David was in freshman year of college. Okay. And so that would have been 2016. And so that means E was diagnosed 2013. So he would have been about
3 years.
Yeah, it was because it was before he stroked. So he was impacted, but still able to do things.
Right.
Very much wanted to try and do things, but you could tell, like he could pick up a plate,
Yeah.
but he couldn't pick up 2 plates.
Right. Well, I couldn't.
He couldn't squeeze a glass.
I couldn't really understand him at this point. Like he could speak, but like I already have an issue with understanding, like even words and songs.
Articulation was very
And so it was very like I'd be talking to him and kind of look at you, and you would, you know what I mean? So that's where I was at. But again, I mean, he took me, like I drove and literally to get my car detailed, and he like walked in, and so it's like. Yeah. So he can still function at that point. It was, but it was.
And you have to realize that people progress at different rates.
Yeah.
So
yes,
some
there's a
people, first of all, it's a diagnosis that very few doctors will diagnose you early on. It's almost, in many ways, a diagnosis of elimination. But because it's a death sentence, doctors don't want to. So they'll, let's test for this. Let's try and do this. Let's, it must be a back injury. It must be, it's always something else. Right. But in our case, because his symptoms were so clear, he was actually diagnosed very early. And, we had phenomenal physicians. And so he was diagnosed. His first symptoms really started in August. Yeah. And then he was diagnosed in April.
Okay.
But I didn't get him to the doctor.
Yeah.
We finally went. He started complaining in August, and then I think he went to general doctor in January, and then in April we went to a neurologist.
Okay.
And
what was the symptoms at first? Like he just was feeling like weak? Like,
oh, you're gonna love this.
Oh,
now
yeah.
you guys will be like, oh my gosh. So he came. We had a summer home which you have been to, and so during the summer after school got out and until school started. The kids and I were there all summer long, and then Eric would drive up on Thursday evening or Friday morning, and then spend the weekends and drive back from Connecticut.
New York.
Correct.
He was on the outside New York. Yeah.
And so it was like August, and he, gosh, my hands kind of feel weak. And being the loving spouse that I was, I said, maybe you should get your butt back to the gym.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he, moved on and would complain every once in a while. And finally, about September, October, I said to him, okay, look, this is a man who'd never broken a bone, never had a cavity, never been in a hospital until my children were born. Wow. Like just was perfect health, worked out all the time.
He wasn't overweight.
Oh,
like
no.
Yeah.
And typical of people who get diagnosed with ALS. But it was very funny. And so I finally said, you need to stop complaining or let's go to see the doctor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want to go see a doctor. Everything's fine. All right. And then he came out of the bathroom, Thanksgiving. I can't button my pants. I said, well, maybe you shouldn't eat so much.
Right. You're just playing.
I mean, did you how clueless? So he's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I can't get my fingers to work. That was my first trigger.
Yeah.
I was like, so we got through the holidays.
Yes.
Went to the regular doctor and in internal medicine. They ran a bunch of tests and said he's fine. And Eric's dad had a brain aneurysm at 40. And so one of the questions we had asked was, look, do we need, there's this history. Do we need to do a scan or something? She's like, okay. She said, everything's fine. If you want, she called a couple of weeks later. All of his lab work's good. If you want to go see a neurologist, you should probably follow up with that. So we're thinking brain aneurysm.
Right.
Never thinking that. And small world, believe it or not, it was the insurance actuary who caught it because we were thinking about changing life insurance. Okay. And so one of my close friends was my State Farm agent. Wow. And so they pull all the medical records. Okay. And when they pulled the medical records of his visit to the doctor, where it said that he was feeling, his hands were feeling weak, and he felt like maybe he had a little tickle in his throat. Yeah. The actuaries said he needs to go to a neurologist before we'll clear him. Okay. And so my girlfriend called me, and I'm like, you people are so silly. Like, we were so dumb. We had no clue.
You're just like everyone.
Yes.
I mean, this is very,
no clue.
How would you know?
Yeah. And went in and actually saw my neurologist. And it was the craziest appointment. We were very good friends and just, laughing, getting ready to go on vacation. And as as all married people know, when you've been married for over 20 years, trust me, you don't stare at them that closely anymore. You know where all the parts are.
Right,
And so you just don't think about it. So as Eric is sitting in the doctor's office, Al says, hey, take your shirt off. And so he does. And we're laughing. And all of a sudden I look over and the whole tenor of the visit changed. And he's looking at Eric and he's like this close to his body.
Yeah.
And he's seeing all the muscle twitches that I hadn't even noticed and he'd never noticed. And that was the first clue that something wasn't right. And he said, when we were starting to leave, he's like, look, I want you to go on vacation. So I looked at him. Yeah. And he said, when you come back, we're going to run some tests. I said, look, you know me well. What's going on? Claire, I want you to go on vacation. We'll talk when you get back.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, So we left and then came back. I Googled what tests he was running.
Right, yeah. You couldn't let it
100%. But what the tests that they were running were to eliminate MS. So I originally thought maybe he had MS.
Okay.
But came back.
Which the difference in MS and ALS would be?
Night and day.
Okay.
But it's also a muscular issue.
Yes. Okay.
But it's very diagnosable by MRIs.
Okay.
And so, sure enough, we came back, had those, and they did what's called a nerve study. And don't ever take the last appointment on a Friday.
Oh my gosh.
And we had it, and he just looked at us and said, he's got ALS. And I looked up and said, okay. Is he going to die? And Al just looked at me, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I'd never heard of ALS.
Right.
Had heard of Lou Gehrig's disease because Eric was a big baseball guy.
Right.
Same illness. But that was the first, wake up call. But, it's, and then you learn. And we were very fortunate, had phenomenal physicians, had a great team out of Boston, and just we're very blessed. And Eric was very, very adamant about his path and how he wanted to deal with it, and the legacy he wanted to leave for his children, and wanting to ensure that they were healthy in this transition. Right. He knew what it was like to grow up without a dad. Right. And he wanted to make sure that they knew that he loved them tremendously, and that he could care for them and provide for them. And he did it well.
So with people who get, usually with like cancer, right? They have to go and do all these treatments and chemo and stuff like that. So what was the doctor visits like? Was it something y'all were going constantly to? Because the kids right now, if you're painting the picture, they're in high school.
Yes.
Okay. So
they're trying to live their best life. And that was what we were telling them is, look, you don't get to come back and redo high school.
Right.
You need to live high school, enjoy it. For the first couple of years, so from a timing perspective, first couple of years, we told no one because you have to remember he was so young. Right. He was 45. Right. And he was concerned about, what do we do for, I'm not going to make it to retirement. Yeah. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with insurance? So he had lots of things to have to try to work out. But the flip side of that is once he was able to kind of garner through all of that, it was good. Yeah. But early on, he didn't really, and he did not want people looking at him differently.
Correct. Yeah.
He wanted his dignity. Yeah. So he didn't talk about it. And, the kids and I didn't talk about it to other people. Mm-hmm. One or two people knew, but not many. Right. But what happened is, you remember the ice bucket challenge?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what happened is that was going into David's senior year of college, and my son was a phenomenal little hockey player, and my daughters were hockey players. Yeah. And so we had stopped at a Best Buy Dick's Sporting Goods, to get a jump rope. Okay. And for David, because he wanted to do some jumping, he all about the body at that point. And when we found the one, Eric helped me pick it out for David. Eric said to me, I
I'm not going to be able to cut this to shorten it because unfortunately I am the reason my son did not make it to the NHL. He's all of 5'7".
Yep.
So he has never let me forget it. My husband was 5'11". I'm 5 feet. That's just, not happening. So I went to the counter to ask the manager to
could you cut
cut it
this?
for me, and in the process, they were talking about the ice bucket challenge and they had just done it and were challenging each other. And I looked over at Eric and Eric was listening to them intently because they were so happy that they were doing this and feeling like they were making a difference.
Yeah.
And I looked up and at the manager and I said, I want you to know my husband has ALS.
Yeah.
And that's why I've asked you to cut this because he can't. So when you did the ice bucket challenge, that, here's someone that's dealing with it.
Yeah.
And Eric looked at the man and the man was so gracious.
Yeah.
And he reached out and shook my husband's hand. And the tear that came down my husband's face,
Yeah.
I'll never forget.
Yeah.
But it just was one of those, like that was his moment of saying, okay, I guess people are going to still respect me and
Yeah.
I can talk about it.
Wow.
So, and then we did, and his college coach, David's high school coach reached out and wanted to do a fundraiser and, which we did for research for ALS. And
But
it was
isn't
neat.
that such a beautiful moment that one
yeah.
person
Yes,
allowing
makes
a
a difference.
gateway of compassion
Yes.
showed that he could be his self.
Yes.
And that's just huge. And I love that.
I'm so glad you said that because it's that reminder that you never know who you're going to meet in the
Right.
grocery store,
Yep.
at the gym.
Yeah.
And it takes really so little effort to be kind,
Right.
to just say one nice thing.
Yep.
And yet you have no idea how it could radically change someone's life.
Right.
You don't know what they're going through that day.
Right.
You don't know how bad their life is, and they're thinking, you know what?
Yeah.
Life is not even worth living.
Well, and
you've
exactly.
said something kind, and all of a sudden,
It changed
in a
everything.
room where no one has said something kind to this person in weeks,
Yeah.
you've changed it.
So at this point, this is around 2015.
That was 2015.
Okay, gotcha. So what was the deciding factor? Okay, because you're talking about keeping your kids healthy and everything like that, and how you had to deal, or how you were dealing with this was through
That was
food.
the fall of 2014.
Okay.
Was the ice bucket, because David graduated in May of 2015.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's when I graduated. Yeah. Okay. So, so that's what, because my whole thing is you're dealing with the food and everything, and that's kind of how you're dealing with grief. So what
I wasn't
led you?
dealing with it. I was just eating.
Gotcha. Okay, got it. And I mean,
I was anesthetizing.
well, and I think that so many people that listen, that have gone through a loss,
Yeah.
they know that
Yeah.
feeling. And even if they haven't gone through a loss, so they know that emotional connection with food. And so was that the reason that you were because as I know you had a hard time at being at Vermont because you left, your kids were.
Yes, I
right?
left Eric. It was the first time I'd really left him.
But this
And-
was you taking time for yourself.
Yeah.
So what was how did you?
And it was interesting that you say that because, yes, and it was so important and it was great while I was there.
Yeah.
But even while I was there, the whole time I was thinking, I'm being so selfish because I'm here and he's there and I've only got a limited number of days with him.
Yeah.
And so I really struggled. And even going back home, although I continued to try to be healthy and walk, and I just never really really made the investment in me. And interestingly enough, you fast forward probably. So Eric had a major stroke in 2016, and that really changed a lot. But my daughters looked at me probably 2018 and said probably the most difficult words that someone can say to someone. But they looked at me and said, Mom, you're over 230 pounds. And we're going to lose Daddy. And at this rate, we're going to lose you.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him.
Yeah.
And I remember just weeping and thinking, I'm so busy taking care of my husband, but I got to take care of me because I need to be there. My kids are not going to have one parent.
Right.
So I remember that very day I went out and it took everything to walk 2 blocks. But I thought, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And every day I would walk a little bit longer
Yes.
and a little bit longer and a little bit longer. I now walk between 5 and 8 miles every day.
I know. I love it.
I play pickleball probably 5-6 days a week. I've lost over 80 pounds. No pills, no crazy shots and all of this. Not just I eat whatever I want. I just am smart.
Yeah.
I eat healthy.
Yeah.
But you know what? Girl, if I want a burger and fries, I'm going to have a burger and fries.
Exactly.
I'm not going to beat myself up over it.
Exactly.
But then I'm going to know, hey, you know what? I can't have a burger and fries and a shake and, 14,000 calories every single day.
Correct. Yes.
So it's all about moderation and just changing your lifestyle. And I can say I'm probably, I don't think there's ever been a time in my life except for maybe like high school that I have been healthier.
Right.
And it's good.
And I love that. And I was actually telling my clients that because I said, my friend that's coming in, she's the healthiest she's ever been.
Yeah.
And, that I've known her and, and from what you've said, and I love that.
And kept it off for 4 years.
Right.
And that's the
important.
difference.
That's an actual lifestyle change.
Girl, let me tell you what, we have lost and gained 30, 40 pounds, probably, 100 times over a course of a lifetime.
Right.
But the problem is you deprive yourself and then you turn right around and you put it right back on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you've lost muscle and you're putting on fat. It is a horrific cycle.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So you just have to just say, okay, I'm going to walk, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to, do weights. I still do weights. And
yeah, we just got done working on the LYB.
she tried to kill me.
I did not try to kill her. Do not. That is false information. But no, she did great. You crushed it. And again, you got a strong frame. I knew that from the beginning, like you said, when I met you in Vermont. And I just love that because, again, our bodies are meant to move,
They are.
And
I think it's so important, too, the older you get. I'm 60 years old. And the fact that I run circles around a lot of my friends is so important.
Yeah.
Because, you got to, if you stay active, you're going to be active.
Right. I know.
It's just
I think
so
a lot of people, especially my age, right? They're thinking that like when they get to 60, they're like, oh, I won't have to do anything. Or you know what I mean? Like they don't think about the longevity of it. They're like, okay, just for this short window of time, and then I'll be good. Then I've got there. I made it to the weight. I made it to the size. I made it to the wedding. I made it to whatever. And they don't realize that like, guys, like this is for life.
Yeah.
So like you got to make sure that it's obtainable.
And it's as much mental as it is physical.
Yes.
Because those last couple of years
Right.
were so hard.
Yeah.
So hard to walk through. And there were so many days I would put my shoes on and look at my sweet man and say, I love you. I just need a few minutes.
Right.
I'll be back. And go walk.
Yeah.
And weep.
Yeah.
And then turn around and come back.
Yeah.
And be strong enough to say it's okay.
And that was your outlet.
Yes.
And movement helped you. And
Yes.
and so that's the thing too. So when, when I come up there, I think it was after I started my business in 2017 that I came to the lake house. So, but I think it might have been towards the end of that year because he was walking up the stairs. He could get up the stairs like 1 or 2 times. I saw him do it.
Yep.
And it was freezing cold. There was snow everywhere. And but beautiful. Loved being there. And so I remember that. And then it wasn't until I come to visit you when you guys were in now Florida. And it was in Tampa at that apartment.
The apartment complex.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was when I saw like that significant difference because now he had the walker but he would walk the dogs. He went and walked the dogs and moved.
Yeah.
And it was just so, at that point, because when was that? What year was that?
That would have been probably 2019. It would have been probably just post COVID.
Like right before COVID, you mean?
Was it
2019?
before or after COVID?
See, that's
So
why
COVID was March of 20.
Yeah, March of 2020.
Okay, so
Wait, so I was seeing, so it would have had to be, I feel like.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was before that happened.
Yeah.
So,
But it was like around.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was ready to kill you.
Yeah.
So I think it was probably.
We're talking about Wes. So basically, I remember sitting at a restaurant with her and being like, he like the whole
Yeah.
situation.
And this,
I
the
didn't even-
beauty of not being the real mama is that you can be direct.
Yes.
Because, real mama loves her and is really so very good to her.
Yeah.
I'm going to snatch her butt bald headed.
Yeah.
I just am like, have you lost your mind?
Yeah.
This is crazy. You have worked so hard
Right.
to do so much. Why are you putting yourself in this kind of a position to be hurt so badly?
Yeah.
And your value is so much greater. And I think sometimes when we come out of situations where our value has been compromised, it's easier to believe the compromised thoughts
Oh, right.
than to believe what it is of reality and who you are.
Yeah.
So much easier to believe the bad than the good.
For sure.
And so I just, that was a tough time. But sorry. Anyway, but what's amazing about that too, though, is at that point he was really struggling.
Yeah.
And, but it's that reminder. Look at this little dog here.
I know.
I mean, she's all of 9.5 pounds, and there were 2 of them that would attach to either side of his walker,
Yes.
trained, and they would walk him.
Yeah.
At that point, he could not move his arm. I would have to lift his arms up, put them on his walker, and he had a tall walker, which is good, but his legs were still working.
Yeah.
But the core, all the rest of it, he really couldn't speak. But they would walk him in little bitty things.
Yeah.
But it's that reminder that you think you can't.
Right.
You can.
Oh, yeah.
You can.
100%. I remember, because I remember watching that. I was like, oh my gosh, and then we walked to dinner, and it could have been so much easier to call Uber or whatever. You know what I mean? But it was, but you were there. I mean, so how was that on you? Because at this point, I believe there was a gym there and stuff. And so you were starting to,
Yep.
And you were in your fitness and stuff.
Yep.
So did you kind of take coach role? Because I wasn't there the last, year for it to see.
So I was never that kind of a mama or person. Like when God gave out mercy, he didn't give me any.
Yeah.
I mean, I missed that train.
Yeah.
I have always been a very tough kind of cookie.
Tough love. Yeah.
I have a great heart, lots of love, but I don't tend to show it. And I'm very, hey, this is what we're going to do. Let's go. This is why. And so that's why I raised my children.
Yeah.
They'll tell you that I scared them to death, which I think is hysterical because do you think I was going to kill you?
Right.
Oh, mama. But in the same way, I think when Eric got diagnosed, the first thing he said to me was, this is not going to be easy, but I'm telling you now, when it gets to the point that I can't, wipe my own butt, I'm out.
Yeah.
I have some dignity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, fine. Now I know what the drill is. I know what you want.
Right.
So I treated him the same way I always had.
Yes. I love that.
My husband always made my iced tea for years.
Yeah.
Guess what? Up until probably, a month before he died.
Yeah.
He was, now, things had changed. I had the pot right by the stove because he couldn't pick it up. But, I think there's a level of dignity you transfer when you realize there are some things they can't do, but you can help them still do.
Yes. For sure.
Don't make them a victim.
Yeah.
None of us wants to be a victim. No. Once you take on that role of being a victim, you lose your dignity and drive.
Basically, how you went through the last kind of years with E. Were you on that? Did you? Because you rapidly see, and you were like, okay, it's coming. You saw, you knew.
Can I ask a question?
Are you? Can we hear you on the mic?
Well, can you just repeat?
Okay, I'll repeat your question, Logan.
When did you become aware of the true severity of it?
Okay, so when did you become aware of the true severity
of the illness?
Of the illness?
Well, from the get-go.
So
when I walked out of the doctor's office, I Googled it.
He's going to, they're he's got maybe 5 years. So they're he's got.
So remember, I asked the stupid question, was he going to die?
Right.
And so they gave him 4 years. And
gave him
then,
4.
yeah,
Okay.
and then we went to several other ALS places to
Right.
confirm the diagnosis. All of them gave him 4. And Eric actually lasted about 8.
Yeah.
So, we were very blessed that way. But I'm sorry, what was the other question that you had asked me?
So just like, so was it one of those things where kind of like
Did I recognize it?
Yeah. Like,
It's interesting because I asked my children because they really dealt well with it when he passed. They were so strong. I was a wreck. And I said to them, "Are you okay? Are you?" Their response was, "Mom, you gave us the gift of being able to enjoy our high school years, our college years, because you only get one shot at it." And you would say that to us.
Yeah.
Go live your life. That's the best gift you can give your daddy.
Yeah.
But what happened is every time we would come home, we would see the jump. It's kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah.
The jump between 2017 and 2019
Yes.
was astronomical for you when you saw that.
Right.
They would see that every time they came home.
Right.
So they grieved along the way.
I see.
They began that mourning process.
Yeah.
They knew that the dad that was there was not the dad that they had had 5 years ago.
I see.
Versus me,
Yeah.
I was there every day.
Yeah.
And I think there's a difference when it's your dad versus your spouse. And I knew it intellectually, but I just didn't want to go there.
Right.
And I think I couldn't go there and stay positive. And one of the things we would laugh about is he would say, "Now, Claire, let me tell you, here's where our money is. This, you got to do this, you got to do that." I would look at him and say, "You're going to be so mad when you're in heaven.
Yeah.
You're going to be down there yelling at me, going,
Right.
I told you this."
Right.
I'm telling you now,
Yeah.
I know I'm a smart woman. I cannot do this. It is an emotional block. You always took care of all the retirement
Yeah.
part of our finances.
Right.
I choose not to
Yeah.
because I emotionally cannot.
Right.
Because for me to do that means that I have to admit that you're going to die. And I can't do it.
I see.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Talk to our daughter
Yeah.
who's in finance
Yeah.
so that she knows.
Right.
And then I'll do my best.
Yeah.
And I think, so I think that it's okay to realize there are some sides that you just can't deal with.
Yeah.
And I remember he passed on a Wednesday evening about, I think, 7:45. And my son was actually deployed.
Okay.
And Eric was adamant that the kids not be there, that he did not want them to see him
Right.
in those last few days. And I called my girls, and I got one, and the other one didn't answer. So I hung up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so, and then she was trying to call me back, and I was like, ah!
Right.
But one was actually running a like a symposium thing. She's in medical school, and
And
she
now surgeon. Yeah.
yeah she graduates in May. She'll be doing a residency in general surgery, but she said when she got the second call, she knew, and she walked out, and then they called me, and so they came the next morning, and my best friend had been with me over the last week and a half, and so I didn't have to be by myself, and
That's good.
and so she went with us to the airport and picked them up, and it was such a beautiful gift to me because I could just mourn.
Yeah.
They had already had those conversations with their dad.
Right.
They knew what needed to be done.
Right.
And we had already planned his service. We had already, and he was a part of it.
Yeah.
He and I went, and he told the pastor, "This is
Right.
what I
remember you
want.
telling me
This
that.
is
Yes.
and it was
And
it was such
a
a
beautiful
gift. Yeah,
service. And yeah.
such a gift.
I remember seeing you that day. I mean, you were hosting everyone. Like, you were talking to so many people. You were just running around. Like, and it was one of those things where it was like, your kids definitely seemed so calm.
Yeah.
So just like greet, like, and so it was interesting to see the dynamic
Yeah.
of the difference in the, and
I think it's so important. I think especially for those that are diagnosed with a long-term illness, it's easy to get caught up in and please don't mistake this for me making light of the illness
Right.
or the devastation to you. it is absolutely devastating.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest gift I think I will say that my husband gave was he died well.
Yeah.
He made the active choice
Yeah.
at a time when so many of his choices had been taken from him.
Right.
He had to have his food cut for him. He had a feeding tube. He had, there was so much he couldn't do.
Right.
But he made the choice to make sure to take care of things well in the transition.
Right.
So that, we are so much better.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are so much healthier
Yeah.
for having gone through that.
For sure.
And I think it's so good.
Yeah. And that was 2021, right?
Yeah, April of 2021 will be 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, we are in April.
Yeah.
April
Oh my
21st of 21.
oh my goodness. Yeah. So, okay. So after, because during the time that I had visited in the condo, y'all were building a, yes. And that's
Yes.
where you live now.
I do, and that was sweet because it was kind of one of those things where he had picked it out, and but he never lived there. He
Right.
passed before, and so it's kind of given me the opportunity to kind of start over and
But still
really
have a part of him with you. Cause
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So I still have those beautiful memories.
Yeah.
But for the first time in my life, I'm not taking care of children
Right.
or a husband, and not first time in my life, but certainly since I got married for the last, 30 years.
Right.
And it's been so great. I'm so selfish.
No, that's
And I absolutely love it. It's like,
Yeah.
if I want to play pickleball for 4 hours, I don't have to call and
No.
let anybody know. I
Yeah.
can just stay on the courts.
Yeah.
If I want to, take an 8-mile walk, I
Right.
go.
exactly.
If I want to skip lunch, I don't have to make food for anyone.
Right.
If I want to go out someplace, it's just, so it's just such a gift. It's sometimes I laugh at my kids and say, are you, excuse me, but if y'all don't decide to start pulling these triggers, I'm going to be 90 by the time you have grandchildren.
my
So can you
gosh.
get on it?
Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah.
the nice part about it is because I don't have grandchildren, none of them are married. It's really been a gift to give back to me to say, hey, this is a time for you.
Well, I think that's
So it's
God
good.
within your life. You know what I mean?
Very much so.
And what I love though about your story though is that at no point, from my perspective of it and listening and hearing even more, at no point did he just feel sorry for himself. I feel like he stepped up literally. I mean, he literally did all these things to help everyone in his life be better versus angry and just, and waste the time away,
I think there's an element of choice in life. It doesn't mean that he didn't sometimes feel that way.
Right.
And, I sometimes express that to me, and I get it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you got to look up and decide, am I going to be ruled by my feelings and live in the victimhood of pity, or am I going to make the choice to move ahead and be positive? Because guess what? You're not changing the circumstances.
Right.
All you can control
Yeah.
is how you react
Yeah.
in those circumstances.
And that's so important because again, the other part too is that during this time with you, I know you said you felt kind of, that pull of when you came to Vermont, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was a reason that, and we talked about this last
100%.
night for us to, because I should
You
have never
and
been,
I.
I should
Not
have never
anything
been
else.
accepted there. You know what I mean? I was the first non-exercise science major. I told my story. And she was and for some reason was yep, come on through, right? And
Yet
then
so compelling and so important because
Yeah.
you were the first step toward me being healthy. And me making the decision a few years later after my girls were like, come on, Mom.
Right.
I had all the pieces.
yeah.
I knew what I needed to do because I had spent time with you.
Oh, I love that so much. That was so special
You
for
what?
you to say.
Okay.
Yeah, good. That was really special. Thank you for saying that because
It's so true.
Well, and you had such an impact on my life just because, again, like I said, it really did feel like you were somebody that just saw me, and for so long, I just wanted someone to not see, right? And the same that what I did for you, right? So
Yep.
it's again finding those people that can
100%.
understand that,
Yeah.
And so that was amazing. So,
And by the
now-
way, you still need those kind of people in your life.
Oh, for
And
sure.
Everyone does.
yes,
Like if you got someone in your life that's constantly pulling you down,
right.
girl, walk.
Right. And that's what we talked about too, like getting those toxic people out and not
Yes.
having them around anymore.
Yes.
And it's hard. It is
It is
hard.
so
And none
difficult,
of
but
this
you're worth
conversation
more.
that we've talked about, you guys listening, like obviously has been easy. Not all
No.
of the with the struggles and things like that, but again, how you react to it, how you choose to react to
Yep.
it is what matters the most. And that truly you can overcome and accomplish
Yes.
anything that you set your
Yes.
mind to. And so with being like in this era of you in this time, you, like you said, you already had these stepping stones that got you to, okay, a foundation, but then you really were able to, put your health first and everything like that.
Yep.
So you're feeling better and you're moving your body more. So is there anything that when you look back, like two questions, is there anything that when you look back that you like, I don't know, do you think that like I don't know, is there anything that you regret? Like or with anything? Like,
Girl, that's such an easier question. I thought for sure you were going to ask me about my dating life. I was like,
hey, we can talk about the dating life real quick.
Not go there. No, I've always tried to live my life without regret, and to try and live each day in that day,
Right.
because I didn't want regrets.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I lived every day perfectly,
Right.
but I lived them deliberately.
Yeah. Well, and too, because here's the thing, I feel like everyone needs to hear this. It's like, you don't have to wait for a life-threatening illness to realize that every day could be your last day.
Agreed.
And to make the most of it.
Agreed.
And I feel like everyone always thinks they're going to have more time. They're going to, whatever it is.
Yep.
And it's like, just start now, just with whatever it is, like reading into your Bible more, working out, eating better, whatever it is, just start today,
100%.
Yeah.
And you know what? Live today for today.
Yeah.
You only have one day. So if you're going to start being healthy,
Right.
instead of telling yourself, "Oh my gosh, I've got 100 pounds to lose, and I've got
Yeah.
instead of all of that,
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
today I'm going to make the choice to drink 8 glasses of water,
Yep.
to get 8 hours of sleep, and to eat healthy,
Yeah.
and to move my butt."
Right. And
Okay, I'm done.
right. And again, it's not about being perfect as well.
Correct.
So it's the thing too, though, it's finding a balance within all of it. Right. And I think that's where the struggle is and everything like that. But, you still were making active choices
Yes.
during the hardest part, I would say, in your life. Right. And so it's not about, okay, well, after someone, passes or when this happens or whatever, it's like you again were continuing. And then also too, you guys like set up yourself for success. Like you did the things like before all this happened. Like you did have the foresight, like you lived in the moment, but you also still were smart.
Yeah.
Like with the whole Roth thing. Like I remember you telling me, you're like, you don't have a Roth. Like we need to
Come
get
on,
that
girl.
going. Like I know. And I was just like, no one had really mentioned that before. And I didn't know, I didn't understand. And that was huge,
so important.
And even we still have talks about stuff like that and of next steps and everything. And I really appreciate that guidance and that support and you do, lay it out pretty flat, like, and it's good though, because more people like, again, especially with as you've been in Nashville so far, it's a weird energy. It's a weird culture, right? Because nobody wants to like be real or
Correct.
talk about, talk about these hard things or the stuff. It's like, oh no, everything looks good. I'm perfect and this is that and whatever. And it's like, no, guys, it's not. And people are struggling every day, but that doesn't mean, and just because like I look a certain way or you look a certain way or whatever, doesn't mean that like with even the health stuff, that the stuff's not going on.
100%.
But I'm just choosing not to. I can be happy while also being kind of like, fearful or things like that, like at the same time. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to hide out and not live my life.
Well, and you said something so compelling that I hope people just heard. You are not perfect, but let me tell you what you are. You are perfectly you. And that is so good. Like there's not one other person in this world that is made exactly like you.
Right.
And this world needs you. That's why God made you.
Yeah.
So be you, value you,
Right.
and do what you need to do to be on this earth for as long as you're able to be able to love others. I mean, if you think about it, that's the tenets of Christianity.
100%.
God loved us
Right.
so much.
Yeah.
And guess what? The one delineator between Christianity and every other religion in the world is love. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
He did it for you.
Right.
So get off your butt and let's go.
Exactly. I love it. I love that so much. And I will say that, I feel right now in this whole season of life like very grateful.
Yes.
Right? Because I
too.
feel like I am doing that work and he's rewarded me with things that would make no sense to anyone else or, and it wouldn't. And even to be able to have this conversation with you and have you come here and and I love that, I think I had told you because we just kept passing by each other. Like, I think it was like just with texting and whatever. It was like, okay, you're doing okay. I'm doing okay. And I was like, man, like, I really would love to go see her, but and so like that. And I remember you just being like, what weekend works? Like, what can we do? Yes. Like,
I'm coming to Nashville.
Yeah.
I missed your 30th, girl. I'm coming. Let's go.
Yeah. And like,
I had to work you around my lightning schedule, but I did make it in.
Yeah. And you sent in a beautiful video for the 30th. And it was so sweet. And that was so special. And and to see you on there, cause I didn't know they were even doing that. Logan put it together and stuff, and Katie had done all that at work and stuff. And you'll meet her tonight. But it was just one of those things where, like, man, that was a moment of like I felt so overwhelmed, but also like, man, because you get sometimes it is that tunnel vision, like we talked about during my bodybuilding stuff and whatever, of like me just sitting there being like, man, does this even matter? Am I even? What am I doing? Yeah. Right? Like, what's my purpose? Exactly. Yes. And then to listen to that. And, we had our Mexican food here. I was wearing my fun outfit. I had my family, all the important people in my life here that genuinely feel like they care for me in a way that is not just, what can I get from you? What can I get from you? What can I get from you? Because there are those people too, right?
Of course.
And just to see you, I was just like, man, this is like, you like Mama's here, like, Mama Claire's here.
It's all good.
And that was so great. So I love it. And you always look out for me. And you really have been just such a special person in my life. I'm so glad you're here. And we're going to get to a couple bucket list things that I've been like putting off, because it's my season of like, let's do the things,
That's it.
And yeah, so this is going to be great. And what's something, I guess, if you could leave the listeners with, one thing of advice, whatever. I mean, you've given so many amazing things, but if it's for, any of the mamas out there listening or someone who's maybe struggled with loss or maybe just in like your aspirations as being 60 and living like single, right? Like now you're trying to date again.
Boy. It's a crazy world.
Yeah, we
Girl.
know. Oh yeah. How you meeting people? You
Stay off the apps. That's freaking nonsense.
I'd love for Hinge to sponsor this episode.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it's nuts.
But yeah, like, I mean, with dating and stuff, like, let's talk there. Cause I mean, you told me, because we both, I mean,
my saying of dating in your 50s.
Oh my gosh, tell them.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So dating in your 50s. Well, the 30-year-olds are all over me because they want my purse. The 70-year-olds are all over me because they want a nurse. The 50-year-olds are too busy with the 30-year-olds to make sure their equipment works.
Hey,
it's a mess.
Right. I know that's right.
It is such a mess.
It is. And yeah,
it's crazy. And it is kind of fun in that, like, I can relate to my daughters, and my son. Just, oh my gosh, there's nobody, like, what, we have a world full of real people.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Right.
Because they're really, authenticity is so overrated in today's culture. Mm-hmm. And I think if there's one thing that I would hope resonates above everything else, women, you're beautiful. Mm-hmm. Like, just be real.
Right.
Be real with each other.
Yeah.
And, just go live your best life.
Yeah.
Life's short.
Yeah. And switch your ring over to the other side.
Oh my gosh. This dumb hoe going out with me last night in Nashville. So do you think that this little ring here might be seen as an engagement ring? I'm like, girl, it's got a diamond on it. Get it off and get it on the other hand. Oh, wait, that's the right hand.
Right.
She had it on this hand. So, I'm like, really?
In my defense, I've had that ring since I was 14 years old. No man has ever asked me about it, but I've worn it on that hand. I just like how it looks better on this one.
Instead, every psycho that is going after women that are unavailable is hitting on her. Right. And every normal, real guy ain't going anywhere near it because there's a ring on it.
I'm like, but if you think that's my engagement ring, come on, y'all. Like, come on. But
look.
Come over, talk to me if you thought that was my
right.
Can you imagine? imagine?
Man.
Can you imagine? Oh yeah, I have a ring on.
But-
Wait, you're interested?
But you know what's so wild is that
wait.
what you go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm just laughing because last night
Right.
is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Because you're sitting there talking to a guy,
Yeah.
and then he slides over to go into his phone, and his picture of his girl shows up, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm out." I'm like,
Yeah, so since this is kind of Patreon episode as well, we'll say this. Yeah, I was talking to this guy, we were vibing, whatever. Yeah, pretty eyes, all the things, and not really my type. I was just like, entertained it because she was talking to people too, and
is that what we call that?
and so I literally I said, well, here, pull out your pull up your Instagram, you can look me up, whatever. He opens up his phone and it's his girl as his wallpaper, just his girl, not even him and the girl, just her. And he goes like this, he sees me and he goes, I don't have Instagram. And then literally I said, have a good night.
Yeah.
And-
She
but-
turns around and looks at me and says, "We out."
We out, like immediately, like point blank, period. But whatever. But right. And so, but again, it's one of those things where, like you've told me, you do have to be open. Like you have to be open to it, and you just go up to people and you charge for it. And I love that. But I did tell I told my friends and stuff, whatever. It's like, really, you're such a connector with stuff, and that is so rare. And some people are afraid of how they'll look. They're afraid of how they come across. You're just like in it. You're just like, hey, we're here. It's my first time in Nashville. And it's just so refreshing because that, I feel like, is how I've always, been. And we're just connecting with people and all these things and whatever. And so many people just said, how many times I've gone to the bars and like no one's ever introduced me to anyone. I just sit there and I'm just like, wow, this is no wonder they're not fun.
Well, and I think it's so important why we as women have our girls.
Yeah.
Because if I was by myself, there's no way I would walk up to a group of 7, 8 guys.
Right.
But I got you with me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they're cute. Let's go. And
It
so,
was
of
a
course,
whole thing.
I'm like,
We did
hey,
it
boys,
multiple
what you
times.
doing? And I mean, you're going to be more bold
Yeah.
when you've got someone has your back.
Right.
And that's what's, look, life is short. And look, I'll be honest with you. I would hate being a guy these days.
Yeah.
Because they can't walk up to you.
Yeah.
If they start making eyes at you, all of a sudden you're objectifying me. You're doing this. You're,
Story about her husband.
Yes.
Walking her to the bathroom when they first met. And
Yes.
I'm literally sitting right here thinking, if
So-
somebody did that now.
So Logan was
Correct.
saying that like when your husband walked you
Yes.
to the bathroom and if somebody did that now, they'd be like, oh, he's a creep. But then you're like, wow, this was like really like
and you know
gentleman.
what? I would still think it was really gentlemanly.
Yeah.
Like people have,
Take
people
two extremes.
forget.
Yeah.
Correct. Look, I'm a strong woman.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm smart. I got myself together.
Yeah.
I don't need a man, but girl, I want one.
100%.
But I don't want a cupcake. I ain't
Right.
got girl. I will walk right all over you.
Right.
But if be a man
right.
in this day and age, if you're going to open my door, oh, thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
I'm loving that. But these poor men open doors, and these bitches are
Yeah.
like, "What are you opening my door for?"
Right.
Because I want to.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with whether or not you can open your door or not.
100%. Yeah.
It has everything to do with, I think that you are a very classy woman. Can I open the door for you?
Yes. No, 100. Yes, I totally agree. I get it.
We miss that.
And that's my thing too, is that's why when, some people talk about the whole masculine, feminine energy,
Oh, yeah.
right? And like, well, if you're acting like you can cook your meals and whatever, then why should I come cook your meal? It's like, okay, like I can, but I would love for you to.
Yes. Yeah.
And, and so it's just, again, it's people putting people in these boxes.
Correct.
Right? Oh, independent, strong female, whatever.
Correct.
I can't help her in any way. I'm not going to feel masculine, whatever. It's like, again, you gotta meet me halfway here.
And it's understanding that most women these days, certainly for me, I won't even generalize it. I am in my masculine because I don't have a man with me. I'm by myself.
Right.
So I have to be both. I have to take care of my bills. I have to take care of you. I just got to do it all.
Right.
But if somebody wants to come in and, treat me like a lady and make a meal for me, or just, I'm like, babe,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, it's
I'm
not-
all about, trust me.
Yeah.
I'm all about wanting to be in my feminine.
Right.
If you step up,
Yeah.
it's good.
I think that's great. How long after E passed? Like, how was that for you? Was that like a year? Was that 3 years? Like, what was that?
I started dating probably, I don't know, I think the first man I dated was 6 or 7 months after he passed.
Okay.
Because you have to remember he'd been sick for a long time.
Yes.
But it really wasn't until probably this last year that I really probably, dated regularly.
Yeah.
It's good. Look, nobody will ever replace my husband. He's the
Right.
father of my children. I will always love him.
Yeah. Such a great
But
man.
it doesn't mean that there's not room to love another.
Yeah.
It's like a mother that says, well, I loved my firstborn, so I can't love a second. Really?
Right.
But let's face it, he set the bar.
Oh yeah.
I've been loved well.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a beautiful gift
Yes.
that very few people in life really get.
Right.
And when you've been loved well,
Yeah.
you're not settling.
Yeah.
I can love well, and I've been loved well.
That's
And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I wish more of us realized that is such a beautiful thing.
Oh my gosh. I know. That's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So with with now, like you are putting yourself out there, you go do pickleball and meet people and you go to church and like, right. Cause
Yeah.
I want people to listen. Cause a lot of my like listeners are female. Right.
Yep.
And they are struggling, and whether their, significant others passed or they're
Yeah.
looking or they're,
You got to make lots of circles. So even in pickleball, I play with probably 4 different groups.
yeah.
And I'll rotate around them because it's a numbers game. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. And it's about being out there. And even if your guy isn't there,
Yeah.
it's about meeting somebody else
Yep.
who maybe knows someone else.
Yes.
So, go. If you're sitting at home
Yeah.
eating bonbons, watching the television, you ain't meeting them.
Yep.
So, whether it's walking or going to church or, being involved in community service events or, find things that interest you. I'm a season ticket holder to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
I go to every single game.
Yeah.
Like, just put yourself in different kinds of circles.
And I will say, after grief and stuff, guys, there is no timeline specific. It's
No.
different for everyone. And like I just told you last night, like about that first year, that was just like nonsense and whatever of going on dates and stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until really, I would say after I stepped off stage this last time that I was like, I'm going to be intentional with my time and with my life because of health things and whatever. So it was kind of for me more of a scare of like a reality check of like, whoa, like, okay, I want to live a long, healthy life. Let's like get more supportive people around. Let's get more, and let's put yourself out there. Go do the things. If there's somebody there, cool. If not, whatever. But yeah, putting yourself out there.
It's important.
And it's hard when you've lost somebody that you loved.
It is. And grief counselors will tell you it's about 2 years process. And it is. Having gone through it, I think it is. But people do it at different rates.
For sure. And you have to put the work in with that too.
100%.
So I definitely think, if you think that you're above therapy or whatever it is, you're listening to 2 strong women who
Both been in
have
therapy.
both in therapy, who have gone through it. It's successful in our own right. But like, again, you need that. You need that coach. You need that support. You need that therapist. So you need those people and that
You need
team.
somebody to call you on your nonsense.
True.
And that's what therapy does.
Yes.
Therapy shines a mirror right at you.
Yeah.
To say, let's go, girl.
Yeah.
Really? who are you kidding?
Right. And just keep it real. So I love that. But again, this is awesome. And thank you so much for coming, and seeing
Love you,
the
baby.
house. And I love you too. Are we good? Are we good?
Oh, hold on. Okay,
No,
now
I was just saying that I love this. I'm so glad you got to see the house and everything. And, I really, I'm so glad that God put us both in the same place at the right time. It was
Agreed.
it's been beautiful. So we're gonna have so much fun the rest of the weekend and everything. And yeah, I'm always here no matter what. So
love
thank
you, my
again,
sweet
Claire.
girl.
Yes, I love
this
you
has
too.
been great.
Yeah, awesome.
Yay!